Okay, so today we are going to talk about understanding historical text. Mrs. LaRue handed you guys the Freedom Walker books. What did she talk to you about with those when she handed them out?
She didn't basically hand them out. She just left them on her desk.
Okay.
She hasn't told us about them yet.
Okay, so I'm going to lead into that today, and then the second part of our lesson today, and then when you go back to Mrs. LaRue's, is going to be preparing you for Freedom Walkers. So, understanding historical text is going to be a nonfiction, which is what you guys read with me when we do progress monitoring. And I chose this lesson because of Freedom Walkers. Freedom Walkers is a book about the civil rights. You're going to read about Rosa Parks. Have you heard about Rosa Parks?
Yeah.
And Martin Luther King Jr. Okay.
And some other few people.
The reason we're doing that is because February is Black History Month, and Mrs. LaRue is going to explain all of this to you, and she has some videos tomorrow as well that you will go over. So we're just going to talk about the historical text. We're going to talk about cause and effect, which is my next part. What do you know about cause and effect?
So if you cause something, like you get in trouble, there will be an effect on you.
Okay, so if you cause something, then you're going to get in trouble. There's going to be an effect. Kaden.
So you would get in trouble if you did something bad.
Okay, you're going to get in trouble if you do something bad. What do you remember, Sabrina, about cause and effect?
If your brother gets in a fight, you're going to get in trouble.
If your brother gets into a fight, he's going to get in trouble.
Yeah.
Okay?
Unless you started the fight.
Yes. So let's think back to the Titanic. You guys have heard the story of the Titanic, correct?
Yes.
Okay. What was the cause of the damage to the Titanic? What caused that? The iceberg. Very good. So the cause is that the Titanic ran along the iceberg. What was the effect of that?
Left a big hole in the bottom.
Made a big hole.
Okay, so
And it sank.
very good. It created damage along the side of the boat. It made holes in the boat. Boat filled up with water, and ultimately the boat sank. That was the effect. So the cause was the Titanic. Because the Titanic hit the iceberg, the effect, it sank. You guys understand that? Okay. What other examples can you give me about cause and effect? You have any? What if it's your birthday?
If it's your birthday,
If it's
someone might affect your birthday, or
Okay, because it's your birthday,
somebody is happy for you.
somebody's happy for you, or you get a birthday cake, maybe. So the cause is because it's your birthday, the effect, you get a birthday cake.
And birthday present.
And birthday presents, very good. Okay, so we are going to start with the introduction, and I'm going to read to you what historical text means. We're going to look at these two photos and then kind of talk about them. So, historical text tells you about events that happened in the past. Most history texts don't just describe the events that happened or the ideas people had. They also explain why those events happened and where those events came from. So looking at those two photos on your paper, one photo shows the event that happened and the other shows why it happened. We're going to fill out this graphic organizer describing those. So the first one is a photo of what happened. What do you see in that photo?
There's a bunch of cars.
there's a
Okay.
traffic jam and a bunch of cars, and there's a few cars stuck up on the hill that's up there.
Okay, so what you guys all said was there's a lot of cars and they're in a traffic jam. So write that in your box. There are cars stuck in a traffic jam. That is what is happening in that photo.
How do you spell traffic?
Traffic. T-R-A-F-F-I-C.
I'll put PH instead.
Traffic jam.
Is that how you spell J?
J. Okay, so then the second photo, what do you see in the second photo?
There's a roadwork sign, and it probably means that they have to work on the road.
Okay, so we are going to explain the why this happened. So what do you think is the cause of the traffic jam based on the second photo? Sabrina.
The road has to be fixed, and there's a lot of cars on the road.
Okay, so because the road had to be fixed,
They had to find a different way to get to the place.
okay, or if they didn't find a different way, it caused the traffic jam, right? So in your second box, because the road had to be fixed, there was a traffic jam, or they have in here, it is traffic is moving slowly, which is why you see so many cars there. They can't go as fast as they would like to. So because the road needed to be fixed, the traffic is moving slowly. So what is the cause in those photos? What caused this?
The road work is probably because the road got too messy.
Okay, so the road work is the cause. The effect is what, Isaac?
The effect. So if the
road had to be fixed, the effect is what happened.
The cars went slow.
Okay, cars went slow, it caused a traffic jam. So if you are asked to describe what happened and then explain why, do the following. First, you should look at the details in the text, then answer the question, what happened? We did that. Then look at the details that answer this question. Why did this happen? We looked at why this happened. What happened was there was a traffic jam. Why it happened? Because there was road construction. It needed to be fixed. Describing and explaining historical events is a powerful skill. It's useful not just for reading about history, but also for understanding what happens around you every day. So I will tell you that when we read Freedom Walkers, Mrs. LaRue and I are going to also ask you for some cause and effects based on different events that happened during the civil rights movement, okay? Okay, turn the page.
Will we have a paper to fill out, or is this the paper?
There's going to be some packets and some worksheets, yep. So I'm going to read this first paragraph to you about the Model T car, and then we're going to fill out another graphic organizer and answer some questions at the bottom. The first one is called the Model T. When the first cars were produced, only wealthy people could afford them. Henry Ford wanted to build a car that the average working person could afford. In 1908, the Ford Motor Company introduced a new low-cost car. It was called the Model T and sold for $825. Although the car was reasonably priced, Ford kept thinking of ways to make it even cheaper. He knew that the lower the price, the more customers he would gain and the more money he would make. How many of you prior to this have heard about the Model T car?
I have.
You guys have
I
heard about
kind of-
Ford, right? Henry
Yeah.
Ford.
We
You-
learned
Yeah.
about it in, I think, fifth.
No, we learned about it in 4th grade.
Okay, so you guys have some background knowledge on the creation of the first car. So looking at our chart here, the table, again, we are going to ask ourselves what event happened and why it happened. So the description of what happened. I'll start with the first part of the question. What event happened in 1908? If I look back in the paragraph, the third sentence, please find that, put your finger on it.
First sentence.
The third sentence says in 1908. So since my question is asking what happened in 1908, my answer is probably going to come shortly after that sentence. In the fourth sentence, we read that Henry Ford, or the Ford Motor Company, introduced a car called the Model T that cost $825. So in your first box, it says in 1908, the Ford Motor Company introduced what?
Low-cost car.
A new low-cost car.
Very good. It introduced a new low-cost car. And what was that car called, Isaac?
Model T.
Model T. So that's what you're filling in. A new low-cost car called the Model T. And that is all located in that third sentence. And then the beginning of the fourth tells us what it was called. Also in that box, it wants to know what the car was sold for. And it tells me in that fourth sentence that it sold for $825.
Yeah, that's cheap.
Don't we all wish?
Called Model T.
It should be like today.
So you were filling out a description of what happened. This car was invented. It was very cheap. Now we're going to look at the explain why it happened. So why did Henry Ford decide to create this car? Well, when we look back up in the paragraph, the first two sentences are describing that. It says that only wealthy people could afford the cars that were already invented. So Henry Ford wanted to build a car the average working person could afford. So in your graphic organizer box, Henry Ford did this because he wanted to build a car for the average working person. Something they could afford. That is in the second sentence of the paragraph. Okay, so Isaac, why did Henry Ford create this car?
So the average worker could travel better.
Okay. So in your box, you need to put, he wanted to build a car that the average working person could afford. And that statement is also in the second sentence of your paragraph.
What did that?
When you are done writing that, go ahead and start looking at the questions at the bottom.
What if that happened in 1908?
You kind of already answered these, but we're going to re-answer and clarify what events happened in the history. Okay, so using the details from the table that we just filled out, we're going to answer these questions in your own words. What event happened in 1908?
Ford Motor Company introduced a new low-cost car called Model T.
Okay, so go ahead and write that, Sabrina. She said the Ford Motor Company introduced a car called Model T. What else? What other information was in that first box that we could add to that?
So the Ford.
The Ford Motor Company.
How do you spell motor?
It's up here, right here. The Ford Motor Company built a car called the Model T. What other information in that first box can we put in that sentence? What else did we find in our first paragraph?
The car was sold for
$825.
Very good. So you can also add in there that it sold for $825. Or you can create a second sentence saying the car sold for $825. In this, you are simply just restating what we put in our first box.
So, and they sold.
So Isaac, make sure you add in there that the car sold for $825. because that was an important piece of information. Yep. So you can just create a new sentence. Built a car, period. It sold for $825. Please make sure that you are using capital letters at the beginning of your sentences, and don't forget your punctuation mark. So then when you're done with that, I want you to start looking at the next question and asking yourself, why did this happen? That question goes with the second part of our boxes at the top, explaining why it happened.
It tells us always.
Yep. So in your own words,
So,
why did this event happen?
they build a car for the average working person could afford.
Very good. They built the car so that the average working person could afford it. That's why they built the Model T. Go ahead and turn the page when you are done. We are going to do part 3, just because we are already talking about the Model T car. And then the next time we meet, we will move on to the next story, but I want to finish this one first. Okay, do I have a volunteer that would like to read the first paragraph? Kaden, go ahead, and then Sabrina, you can read the second paragraph.
Ford's earlier cars were all handcrafted. This meant that each automobile was slightly different from the next. It also meant that each took a long time to make. Ford decided his cars would no longer be handcrafted. They would be put together in exactly the same way, saving time and money. In 1913, Ford began producing cars with the help of a moving assembly line.
Very good, Sabrina.
The moving assembly line achieved Ford's goal of turning out a car faster and for increasingly lower prices. In time, Ford's factory was turning out one automobile every 90 minutes. By 1915, the Ford Motor Company was earning record profits, and by 1918, half of all cars in the United States were Model Ts. Almost overnight, the United States became a nation on wheels.
Okay, very good. So we are going to, in your closed reading box, it says underline a sentence that tells an event that happened in 1913. So Isaac, where do you see the 1913 information? And then girls, see if you can locate it as well. Where does
Right
it talk about in
In
1913?
1913, Ford began.
Oh, Isaac's turn. Do you see it, Isaac?
Yeah.
Okay, read that sentence for us.
In 1913, Ford began producing cars with the help of a moving assembly line.
Very good. Underline that sentence. The moving assembly line was very important because it allowed them to build the cars a lot faster. Therefore, he could produce more and then sell them. Then it says, draw a box around the sentence that tells why the event happened. So, why did this event happen? Why did they make this assembly line?
So they can make cars faster, and
Okay.
so they can make them look Same.
Okay,
Exactly the same.
so where do you find that sentence? Where do you guys find the sentence telling me why they
Right
made
here.
Paragraph.
the second
First
paragraph?
First,
first
sentence.
Very good. The first sentence, the moving assembly line achieved Ford's goal of turning out a car faster and increasingly lower prices. So box that in or double underline it so you can tell the difference. One underline is what happened, and the second underline or the box is telling me why it happened. Okay, then looking down at the bottom, which of the following sentences explains why Henry Ford began using the moving assembly line to make cars? They give you a hint. Which choice tells how the moving assembly line changed the making of cars? Please read through the answers. Select the one that you feel is the best, and then we will talk about it.
Anything right here?
We're not going to do the summary, no. So you're answering that question. Read through the answers on your own, the choices. Select the one that you think is the best, and then we'll talk about it. Which of the following sentences explains why Henry Ford began using a moving assembly line to make cars? A, he knew that it would make bigger cars. Do you guys think that's the reason he did this? No. Okay. B, he noticed the small differences between handcrafted cars. Is that the reason he made the assembly line?
Mm-mm.
C, he wanted to make cars more quickly and cheaply than before.
Yes.
Yes, it would be C. He wanted to make cars more quickly and cheaper than before. Is that what you had, Sabrina?
Yep.
Okay, good job. We are going to end there for today. The next time that we get together, we will do the bicycle first century story, and then you guys will do your practice on your own.